When your father-in-law looks you dead in the eye and says, "We're cutting your salary in half, take it or leave it," you've got two choices. You fold or you smile and say, "Perfect timing, I smiled. My name's Walter Crane, I'm 54 years old." And the morning Earl Harden thought he was finally putting me in my place turned out to be the best day of my professional life, even if he didn't know it yet. Earl's conference room smelled like burnt coffee and old money. He was already planted in his chair when I walked in, shuffling through papers like he was reviewing something critical instead of setting up the most predictable conversation I'd had in years. Big man, always was. The kind who fills a room just by sitting in it and expecting everyone to feel it. I'd been running manufacturing operations at Anderson Automotive for 22 years. Started at 32, right out of Michigan Tech with a mechanical engineering degree and more ideas about lean production than anyone at Anderson knew what to do with. Back then, Earl was a decent enough boss. Demanding, sure, old school definitely, but he understood the shop floor in a way his sons never would. He knew what 90% line efficiency meant at 6 a.m. on a Monday. What changed was Phil coming home. Phil Harden, Earl's oldest, 34 years old, fresh Duke MBA, never spent a full shift on a production floor in his life. Came back 14 months ago with a laptop full of slides and a mouth full of words like digital transformation and operational restructuring. I'd heard those words before. They usually meant someone was about to save money on paper and lose it in reality. I was right. 8 months in, Phil decided our hydraulic component supplier, a company I'd personally vetted and built a working relationship with over 9 years, was cost inefficient. I remember the exact meeting. Phil had a slide with 2 numbers on it, the old supplier's price per unit versus the new one's. His number was lower, so in his mind, the decision was made. I asked him about lead times. He said they were within acceptable range. I asked about tolerance specs. He looked at me like I'd asked him a question in a foreign language. I went back to my office and ran the full numbers. Defect risk, setup time impact, inventory buffer requirements, projected downtime cost, typed it all up, 4 pages with supporting data going back 3 years. Sent it to Earl that same afternoon with a note that said simply, "This decision will cost us more than it saves. I have the numbers if you want to talk." Earl replied 2 days later. 3 words, "Phil's handling it." 6 weeks after the switch, Ford's quality auditors showed up unannounced. The defect rate on our last production run was 340% above spec. Ford rejected the entire shipment, $480,000 gone in one afternoon. The auditors were professional about it, but their faces said everything. This wasn't a one-time glitch. This was a systemic failure. Phil's response in the emergency meeting that followed was something I'll never forget. He sat across from me and Earl and said, with a completely straight face, "The quality control process should have flagged this before shipment. That's a floor management issue." Floor management, that was me. I had my 4-page memo dated 8 weeks earlier sitting in my desk drawer. I didn't pull it out. I just nodded and said, "I understand your concern, Phil." Earl looked at his son, then looked at me and said nothing. That was the moment I understood exactly where this was going. I want to be clear about something. The salary cut didn't come as a surprise. I'd been watching the pieces move for months. Phil and his younger brother Gary, 30 years old, finance background, about as familiar with the production floor as he was with the surface of Mars, had started showing up at every supplier meeting and client review, asking careful questions, taking notes, learning which relationships had the hardened name attached to them and which ones had been built by one guy showing up at 5 a.m. When a line went down on a Saturday, turns out after 22 years of doing the actual work, that second list was very long, longer than Earl probably realized. The plan wasn't complicated once you saw it clearly. Squeeze me on pay. Either I'd quit in frustration and walk away from everything I'd built, every supplier relationship, every client trust, every process system, leaving it all behind like it belonged to the company. Or I'd stay and accept whatever terms they offered because I had a wife, a mortgage, and nowhere else to go. That last part was where Earl made his mistake. He assumed I'd spent 22 years getting comfortable instead of getting good. He assumed that a man who'd worked inside one company his whole career didn't have options. He assumed that because I'd never pushed back loudly, I wasn't paying attention. I'd been paying attention to everything. And for the past 8 weeks, I'd been having a very different kind of conversation. One that Earl knew nothing about. Carol Walsh called me on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I was sitting at my desk reviewing production variance reports when my cell rang, number I didn't recognize, California area code. I almost let it go to voicemail. "Walter," she said, when I picked up, "this is Carol Walsh. I'll get straight to it. Do you have a few minutes to talk about your future?" Your future? Not Anderson's future. Not the Harden family's future. My future. I couldn't remember the last time anyone at that company had asked about Walter Crane's professional goals. Instead of just assuming, I'd be grateful for whatever came my way. "I've got time," I said, and pushed the variance reports aside. Carol Walsh had a reputation in the industry that made procurement managers nervous and competitors lose sleep. She'd built Walsh Manufacturing from a small California operation into one of the most efficient automotive suppliers in the country, not by inheriting it, not by marrying into it, but by making better decisions than everyone else for 20 straight years. She was the kind of executive who could read a production floor the same way a doctor reads an X-ray. She saw things other people walked right past. "We've been watching your work at Anderson for a while," she said. "The lean implementations, the UAW relationship, the supplier network. Your defect reduction numbers from 2021 alone are better than anything our Detroit competitors have posted in the last 5 years. More importantly, the people who actually work with you, suppliers, clients, your floor supervisors, they talk about you differently than they talk about Anderson Automotive. They talk about you like you're the reason things work." I didn't say anything for a moment, not because I was surprised exactly. More because hearing it said out loud plainly, by someone with no reason to flatter me, it landed differently than I expected. "What are you proposing?" I asked. "VP of Manufacturing Innovation. Full authority over production systems designed for our Midwest expansion. 45% above your current salary. Equity participation tied to expansion performance." She paused, "and no 1 second guessing your decisions because their last name is on the building." That last line. She knew exactly what she was saying. We met in person 2 weeks later at Walsh's Detroit office, and I want to tell you, walking into that facility was like stepping into a different version of what manufacturing was supposed to be. Real-time production monitoring on every line, predictive maintenance that flagged equipment issues before they became downtime. Quality systems built to prevent defects, not just catch them after the damage was done. And the people, floor workers and engineers, actually talking to each other like they were solving the same problem, because they were. "This is what it looks like when you invest in the operation instead of just managing it," Carol said as we walked the floor. I nodded. I'd been trying to build something like this at Anderson for a decade. I knew exactly what I was looking at. I told Carol I needed a few weeks to think it over. That was half true. The thinking was already done. What I actually needed was time to do things right, because here's what I knew. If I was going to leave, I wasn't going to leave messy. I wasn't going to give Earl any reason to turn this into something ugly. I consulted my attorney, made sure every step I took was clean and documented. Everything I was bringing to Walsh, relationships, knowledge, 22 years of earned trust, that lived in my head and in the people who knew me. Not in anything that belonged to Anderson Automotive. For the next 6 weeks, I documented everything I'd built. Not to take it, to prove it was mine to begin with. Every process improvement I'd designed, with timestamps and email trails showing I'd proposed it, often over objections. Every supplier relationship I'd developed personally, with records of the weekend calls and problem-solving sessions that Earl never knew about because he was too busy to notice. Every client request that had come in addressed to me by name, not to the company. After 22 years of watching other people take credit for my work, I finally had the receipts. Donna noticed something was different. She's perceptive that way, not about the business. She never cared much for the details of what I did all day, but she could read me in the way that only someone who's shared a house with you for 2 decades can. "You've been quiet lately," she said one evening. She was sitting across the kitchen table, not really looking at me, flipping through something on her tablet. "Just work stuff," I said. "End of quarter," she nodded. "Dad keeping you busy?" Something like that. She went back to her screen. I went back to my coffee. And I sat there thinking about how strange it was that I was 3 weeks away from making the biggest professional decision of my life, and the woman I'd been married to for 21 years assumed it was her father's business keeping me occupied. That wasn't Donna's fault. That was just how it had always been. In her world, her dad ran the company employed her husband, and that was the natural order of things. The idea that I might have my own plans, separate from Earl's decisions, probably never crossed her mind. I didn't push it. I just said good night and went to my office and pulled up the drafted offer letter one more time. Meanwhile, I made 5 phone calls, not to recruit anyone, just to let people know professionally and quietly where I was headed. Sharon Torres at Parker Precision, Clint Ruiz at Midwest Distribution, Brenda Sloan at Parker Automotive Systems, 2 others. I didn't ask them to follow me. I didn't have to. Brenda's exact words were, "Walter, honestly, you're the only reason we've stuck with Anderson this long. You know that, right?" I told her I appreciated it. I kept the call short. Within 10 days, 4 of those 5 contacts had reached out to Carol Walsh directly. I didn't arrange it. I didn't ask for it. It just happened because that's what happens when you spend 22 years building real relationships instead of just managing transactions. I signed the offer letter on a Friday afternoon. The following Monday, Earl called me into his office and cut my salary in half. The timing, like I said, was perfect. The conference room felt smaller than usual that morning, or maybe Earl just took up more space when he thought he was winning. He didn't offer me a seat. I pulled one out and sat down anyway. He shuffled his papers one more time, a habit he had when he was stalling, then looked up with that flat expression he reserved for conversations he'd already decided the outcome of. "Harold," he said. He only called me Harold when he wanted to remind me I was staff, not family. "Let's get straight to it. We're cutting your salary in half, effective immediately. Take it or leave it." I kept my face neutral. I'd been calibrating pressure gauges and reading tolerance specs for 22 years. You learn to catch the small variations that signal bigger problems. And right now, the biggest problem in this room wasn't mine. "I understand," I said. "When does this take effect?" Something flickered across his face. He'd expected pushback, maybe anger, maybe the kind of desperation that comes from a man who thinks he has no options. What he got instead was calm, and calm confused him. Immediately, he said, leaning back, "I'm sure you understand the position the company is in." The company that had just posted record quarterly profits built largely on lean manufacturing systems I'd spent 3 years implementing, was apparently under financial stress. I did the math in my head. My 22 years of efficiency improvements had saved Anderson Automotive somewhere north of $4 million in cumulative operational costs. The salary cut he was proposing would save him maybe $60,000 a year. It wasn't about the money, it never was. "Absolutely," I said, standing up. "You've really opened my eyes to a lot of things, Earl." His chest expanded slightly. He thought I was thanking him. "Family first," he said, in that tone he used when he wanted to sound like a patriarch instead of a man who'd just made a serious miscalculation. "Always," I agreed. I walked to the door, paused with my hand on the handle, and turned back once. "Earl, for what it's worth, I hope Phil and Gary find their footing. Running this operation is harder than it looks from the outside." He nodded slowly, like I'd paid him a compliment. I walked out, pulled out my phone, and texted Carol 2 words. "Ready. Chicago." Her reply came back in under a minute. "See you there." The Manufacturing Excellence Conference in Chicago was 11 days away. Anderson Automotive was a platinum sponsor, which meant Earl would be delivering the keynote address on the second morning in front of every significant player in the Midwest automotive supply chain. Suppliers, procurement managers, plant directors, people who'd been hearing Earl Hardin's name attached to operational innovations that had nothing to do with Earl Hardin for years. Carol had secured a speaking slot right after Earl's session. The previous presenter had dropped out due to budget constraints. The timing, Carol told me later, had required exactly 1 phone call to the conference organizer. In the 11 days between Earl's office in Chicago, I finished the formal transition, signed the Walsh paperwork, met with my attorney one last time to confirm everything was clean, handed off my Anderson responsibilities in writing with documented handover notes, thorough, professional, nothing left to chance, and nothing left that could be called incomplete. Hank Owens called me the day before I flew to Chicago. Hank was the UAW local rep. We'd worked together for 6 years, built something that most people in management never managed to build with union leadership, which is actual mutual respect. He'd heard through the floor that I was leaving. News moves fast in a plant. "You doing what I think you're doing?" he asked. "Probably." I said. He was quiet for a second. "Those boys have no idea what's about to happen to that place, do they?" "They'll figure it out," I said. Eventually, Hank made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. "I've already had 3 senior guys ask me about the Walsh operation. Word got out you were going there. What'd you tell them?" I told them Walsh runs a clean shop and treats people like adults. Another pause. I also told them nothing's official yet. Give it 2 weeks, I said. Hank said he'd be at the conference. Said he wanted to see it in person. I told him to sit up front. I flew into Chicago on a Thursday evening. Checked into the hotel the conference was using. Walked the convention center floor that night after the welcome reception had cleared out, something I always did before a big day, just to get the space in my head. The main hall was already set up for the next morning's keynote. Anderson Automotive's platinum sponsor banner hung near the entrance, big and blue with the Hardin logo in white. I stood there for a minute looking at it. 22 years. Every efficiency rating, every supplier relationship, every early morning and missed dinner. All of it had gone into building something that had that family's name on it. Not mine. Theirs. I thought about the 4-page memo sitting in my desk drawer back home, the one I'd written 8 weeks before the Ford shipment disaster. The one Earl had never responded to beyond 3 words. I thought about Phil's face in that emergency meeting, calm and unbothered while he redirected the blame. I thought about Donna at the kitchen table, assuming everything was fine because her father was in charge. Then I put all of it away. I'd spent enough time being angry about what this place had cost me. What was coming next wasn't about anger. It was about something quieter than that. Something that felt more like finishing a calculation that had been running in the background for a long time. I went back to my room, ordered room service, and went to sleep early. Tomorrow was going to be a long day, and I wanted to be sharp for every minute of it. Earl took the stage at 9 a.m. sharp. I was sitting in the 4th row center section, with a cup of coffee and a clear view of the podium. The room held maybe 500 people, suppliers, plant managers, procurement directors, engineers, people who actually understood what manufacturing excellence looked like in practice versus what it looked like in a keynote presentation. Earl looked comfortable up there. He always did. He had the kind of confidence that comes from never having to personally fix the problems you create. He clicked through his slides, Anderson Automotive's growth over the past decade, steady and upward, all of it presented like it had happened through his vision and leadership. Traditional values, time-tested methods, hands-on management. He said the words proven approach 4 times, I counted. The applause when he finished was polite. The kind a room gives when they're being respectful rather than impressed. Earl shook the moderator's hand, stepped back from the podium, and scanned the audience with the satisfied look of a man who believed he'd just reminded everyone why he mattered. Then Carol Walsh walked out. She didn't have a long intro, didn't need one. Half the room already knew who she was, and the other half figured it out fast. I want to talk about something that's been on my mind, she began, her voice easy and direct. The difference between maintaining yesterday's operation and actually building tomorrow's. She paused just long enough, because those aren't the same thing. And in this industry right now, the gap between them is getting wider every year. She talked about Walsh Manufacturing's Midwest expansion. She talked about what modern automotive supply chain management actually required. Not the buzzwords, the real operational specifics. The room was paying attention in a different way than it had been 60 seconds earlier, leaning in instead of sitting back. Then she advanced to the next slide. Expansion like this requires the right leadership. People who've spent decades earning the trust of suppliers, clients, and labor, not because of whose name is on the building, but because of what they actually deliver day after day when no one's watching and the line needs to keep moving. She looked out at the audience. I'm proud to introduce Walsh Manufacturing's new VP of Manufacturing Innovation, a man whose work has driven some of the best efficiency numbers in this region for over 2 decades. Please welcome Walter Crane. I stood up. The room started clapping before I'd taken 3 steps toward the aisle. Not polite applause, real applause, the kind that builds as people start connecting the name to the work they'd heard about, the problems they knew had been solved, the reputation that had traveled through this industry on its own for years. Hank Owens was in the front row, exactly where I'd told him to sit. He stood up as I passed and gave me one firm nod, no words. Didn't need any. I walked to the stage and shook Carol's hand at the podium. Behind me, somewhere in the back of that room, I heard a sound, not words. Just air, the specific sound a man makes when he realizes the ground has shifted under him and he wasn't ready for it. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to see Earl's face to know what was on it. Carol said a few more things about the Detroit expansion, the timeline, the partnerships already in place. I kept my remarks short, thanked the industry relationships that had made my career possible, said I was looking forward to what came next, meant every word of it. We walked off the stage together, The moderator was already at the podium moving to the next session. The conference kept moving, the way conferences do. But in the hallway afterwards, something else was already moving too. My phone had 11 messages before I'd made it to the coffee station. 6 months later, I was standing on the production floor of Walsh Manufacturing's new Detroit facility watching assembly lines run at 97% efficiency. The numbers told the story clearly enough. Walsh had captured 70% of Anderson's major accounts within 5 months, not because we'd gone after them, but because the relationships were already there, built over 22 years, and they followed the person they'd been built with. Sharon Torres moved her contracts within 45 days of my start date. Brenda Sloan followed 3 weeks after. Clint Ruiz held out the longest, 6 weeks, then called me directly and said simply, I was always going to end up here. Hank facilitated the UAW transition for 31 skilled workers who'd been laid off when Anderson's production volume dropped. Every one of them came through the process clean and professional. Hank made sure of that. Phil brought in a consulting firm to stabilize Anderson's operations. The firm recommended implementing a lean manufacturing framework, the same one I'd proposed to Earl 2 years earlier and been overruled on. Gary sent me a LinkedIn connection request. I left it pending. Earl called once, left a voicemail about misunderstandings and moving forward. I listened to it all the way through, which was more than he deserved, then deleted it without calling back. Ford put Anderson on their probation vendor list after a follow-up audit. Last I heard, they were still looking for someone who understood statistical process control well enough to rebuild their quality systems from the ground up. I know exactly what that takes, but I'm busy. Here's what I'd say to any man sitting where I was sitting 3 years ago: experienced, dependable, invisible to the people who were supposed to see him. Your track record doesn't disappear because someone stops acknowledging it. The relationships you've built, the problems you've solved, the trust you've earned on the floor at 5 a.m., that belongs to you, not to the name on the building. They'll tell you that loyalty means staying. What they mean is that loyalty means accepting whatever they decide you're worth. Those are not the same thing. When someone cuts your value in half, they're not making a financial decision. They're telling you exactly what they think of you. And when that number doesn't match what the market actually says you're worth, you've got your answer. I spent 22 years building something real. I just finally built it somewhere that deserved it.